Ah, salt water. That's what I have running through my veins. Well, no, this is not salt water. This is kosher salt, and no, I don't have salt water literally running through my veins. What I mean by that is I was raised on the Gulf Coast of Alabama, down in Bayou La Batre, right? Yes, that's where Bubba Gump's family was from, even though he's not real, nor was Forrest or anyone from the movie. But the point is this: Bayou La Batre, Alabama is where I grew up. Coden, actually. It's a sea town. A lot of seafood industry still going on down there. Small now, right? Oysters, shrimp, fish, things like that. But saltwater is what I grew up on. My dad to this day still builds wood boats by hand. The absolute beautiful craftsmanship to take a raw just bit of plywood or marine treaty plywood or planks for that matter and turn it into a seaworthy vessel is just absolutely fascinating to me. Still does it as a side job now, and some of the most beautiful thing I've ever seen is that craftsmanship. So naturally, Transatlantic by Rio Grande absolutely grabbed my attention. We've had train games, you know I love train games. We've had farming games, you know, more of the mundane sort of topics we talk about, but shipping is one of those things where I went, not only shipping, but turn of the century shipping, turn of the centuries shipping. The idea of steamships, coal ships from the sailing era, and getting people here to the 1912s and I think all the way to 1920 to their destination safely. What is this game about? What is Transatlantic? Is it basically Steam by Martin Wallace on water? Is it basically Ticket to Ride with sea ships? No, absolutely not. Let's take a look inside right now at what Transatlantic really is, and is it really the hotness that people are talking about it for right now. So what exactly does Matt Gertz have for us inside of the old Transatlantic here? Well, actually, we have a weird game. It's kind of a card game, kind of that involves, I don't know, some hand management as well as deck building, but not quite so much as you think. Not so much deck building, but hand building, right? Also, this is amazing. Age of Steamships, right? It's 50 vessels which sail on the Transatlantic. This is an absolute detailed story of each single ship in the game. It's history, it's legend, it's death, all the sort of things that happen, including right there, the Lusitania, right? No sunk right before World War I, or during World War I. Anyway, all of this is fantastic. It reminds me of Twilight Struggle, which you know is one of my favorite games of all time. I love to learn stuff when I'm playing a game. Now, it gives you a game setup guide and a rule guide as well for how to play the game. It's one of these guys. So it's deceptive because it looks like, well, there's not that much to the game, right? There is a little bit to the game as far as the rules go. It's not fiddly. I wouldn't call it fiddly. It's not overly complex, but there's just a few things that you need to get down first. Here's what comes in the box. I just want to show you kind of what kind of components we're dealing with here because that's the one place I have to ding this for. It looks a little bit old, the game, and I don't mean a stylistic choice old. I mean like came out in, you know, a little bit, 2006, 2007. So it looks a little bit older like that. But this is where the ships go in the ship market. These are the different boards for the different regions. I do have to say, though, it does come with an insert that you put together yourself, and I think that's fantastic. It looks really nice, and it works really well. Everything fits in there quite nicely. But you build your world, or I should say your coast, kind of like this. You can do these three, or you can flip it to the back. The whole point is you just have to start with either New York or North Atlantic. I like these because, again, it has the pictures. It does not matter. Nothing's really different about it at all. Notice the blue ribbon symbol here, the little house symbols here, and the card spaces here. That's really the only thing that you need to know on this. I will say, this is going to scare a lot of you off right here, except for the fact that this is laminated in such a way where it doesn't clump together. It's actually really nice paper money, and it actually made the game delightful to use. So I enjoy the paper money. But let's see how the game looks set up and what you do to play on your turn and how the game plays. These are all the ships in the game. You lay them out. The starter ships, everybody gets one of these starter ships. These are not steamships, they're sailing ships, so they don't require coal to use in the game, which is kind of nice, and we'll explain what that means in just a little bit. These are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the back, right? That's the whole deal. Oh, Scotia, everybody gets to use Scotia. It's a free ship that everybody gets to have access to. Depending on the player count, you'll remove some of these from the game to make a dock over under the ship track over there. Number 10s are, funny, look at that. They are what you call headquarters. And we'll talk about what that means in just a minute, but you will actually see the ship track up here, and if you can't see all 6 of them, that's okay. It's really not that important. You see the ship track up here, and let's just pretend for now that we have some ships of these colors over here in the dock. These never get to be used again. You don't get to pull them from the docks or anything like that. Just know that there are ships of these different colors over here currently. So there's 2 greens, a blue, and everything else, 1 of each. These cards will get set up at the top. They're the other types of cards that you can get into your hand. Different types of action cards. There's A's and B's. You'll shuffle the A's, shuffle the B's, and then you'll stack them on top of each other like this. You'll lay out, again, as well. I don't know if you can see this or not, but you'll lay out 6 above here. And that'll be what you have of, yeah, you can see them up there. And they do different things. Now, basically, you will get your starting hand of cards over here, and everybody gets the same starting hand of cards. This is some sort of scoring reference guide. It's really not that clear, so it basically means you have to kind of look in the rule book anyway to find out the scoring. But your basic cards are these actions. You start with 150 bucks, and you start with your ship, which you do deploy, by the way, which we'll talk about what that means in just a minute. You have your captains, your houses, and your player tokens that go over here, and your own player board here. Now, do not be confused by these. These are the resources in the game other than the actual coal cubes, which we'll put a few of these out right now just so you can see. But your player board and these resources, the colors of the resource do not matter to your player color. For instance, I'm playing as blue, doesn't matter. These are not player color numbers. Anyway, so here's mine. The Cutty Shark is what I start with. Let's just say I deploy it out here into Halifax, because you have to deploy them out away like that. Well, it will get a captain on there to denote that that's my ship. It's a coalless ship, so it doesn't need coal, so I don't have to worry about putting coal up there. Anyway, your starting actions and all of your cards, let's just go through them real quick and you'll see what they are. This one's simple. This is take all your cards back into your hand. If you take, you have to do 4 cards down. You have to have 4 cards down before you can play this. You'll pull, if you pull 6 cards up, you get to take one of these tokens. We'll talk about what they do in a minute. If you have 8 cards down, you get to pull 2 of these tokens. Finally, choose a card from this bank up here and add it to your hand. So why did I start with that one? Well, it's pretty basic is why. This game reminds me a lot of Century Spice Road. You have a card that lets you pick everything back up versus just picking everything back up. So you play the director, you'll get a card up here. Some of them are better versions of these cards. Some of them are just other cards that are in the game that are pretty cool. So next card is a ship agent. You copy the last card played by an opponent. So you cannot copy a ship agent card, by the way, and do this endless time loop. But you just copy whatever action they play. Because the way this works is when you play a card, it goes down face up like this. Now the next one would be let 2 of your own ships transport. So the transport, plus it says deploy 1 ship if possible. The transport action goes like this. And we'll talk about, at the beginning of the game, you buy another ship for 150 bucks that you start with. You put a coal on it if it's not a steam ship, and your captain. Let's just say I had bought the Pomerania. It is $40. The red is the cost. This is how much it gives you. We'll talk about that in a minute. Weight, speed, passenger count. Pomerania right here. Let's just say that I had built a Pomerania and deployed it. When you deploy a ship, you have to make it the newest one to go to the top. So 1873, clearly newer than 1869. It gets a coal when it's deployed. And it has a captain on it to show that you're a captain. Now, had it been the fastest ship over here in New York, which based on that speed value, you would get a blue ribbon to put on your player board over here. And I like the fact that it's spelled R-A-B-A-N-D. Anyway, so let's just deploy it over here just for the sake of saying. Now, the card that we played, the transport, let 2 of your own ships transport. So the way this works is you'll look out here at the board. 2 of my ships. So I own the Cutty Shark and I own the Pomerania, and the Scotia is neutral. So let 2 of your own ships transport. Cutty Shark does not require coal to transport because it's a steamship, but this one does, the Pomerania. So you pull the coal cube. The green is how much money you get for transporting. So this is $30 from the Pomerania and 20 for the Cutty Shark. I'll get 50 bucks and call it my turn. So you get 50 bucks and you keep going. The next one would be region. This one's a little different. This says choose a region. All ships in that region transport. Take the income from the oldest transporting ship of another player as your extra bonus. So if I play this, and let's just say that I didn't own the Pomerania, but I don't know, for the sake of saying that my wife Carla, the green player, because green wins games, she says. Let's just say she owned it, and I own the Cutty Shark and the Scotia. Well, not the Scotia, but I own the Cutty Shark over here. And let's just say I also own the Abyssinia, all right? Now let's just say that's what happens. So now I play region. You can also deploy a ship if you want, but I play region. So I choose the New York region. So that's this whole area here. Everybody here deploys. Well, if she doesn't have a coal, she can't deploy. But let's just say she had a coal. I'm sorry, she couldn't transport. So if she has a coal, boom, she'll pull hers. I'll pull mine. Cutty Shark goes for free. The Scotia goes for free as well. That might not be true. The Scotia might have to have a coal on it. Yeah, I think it comes with a permanent coal. Anyway, forget I said that about the Scotia, but let's just say the Pomerania, the Cutty Shark, and the Abyssinia. So I would get $50 for my 2 ships. She would get $30, but her oldest ship, I would also get the income for that. So I would get 50 and 30 is 80. So it's a way to get everybody a little bit of money, but I get more money clearly because I'm the one who transports. Now, coal, load as many units as the coal token. So these coal tokens, we'll talk about how to get more of these in a minute. The more you have on your sheet here, which everybody starts with 1 of each, you get as many coal units as you have tokens plus 2. So the first turn you would get 3. You have to distribute them evenly. So let's just say, and I'll talk about this ship market here in a minute, but let's just say that I had, I don't know, some more ships out here. Let's just seed the board a little bit more with some of these ships, right? We can have a more fruitful discussion here. Let's just say that I had some ships all over the place and green had some ships all over the place, right? Well, now I would deploy my coal or place my coal evenly. You have to do 1 to where they're full. And then once you have more, if let's say I would have gotten 4 coal, well then I could come back and put 1 on the Cutty Shark or the Abyssinia, even though the Cutty Shark doesn't take coal. Irrelevant for that right now. But the reason I put it there is because I forgot, not because it takes coal. But you would have to put it evenly. So in this case I had 2, but I'll have a 3rd coal to get, so I'll just put it here on the Abyssinia instead. Next one is shipyard. Purchase up to 2 steamships, deploy 1 of them at sea. So up here is the ship track. The basic cost is the red number on the ships, like I said, plus the modifier at the bottom. The way this modifier works is, for instance, this Sterling Castle is 50. It would then be 100 because it's 50 plus the 50. That's what that modifier does. When you buy the ship, you pay the cost. If you want to, you can, or if it's available to, you can deploy. We'll talk about deploying in a minute. It instantly gets a captain and a coal, just like that. If you can't deploy it, it just goes over here to your side. But if you can deploy it, you will. Then you take the furthest most out, you get rid of it as well, slide everything down, and then put more ships out there. When you empty the ship deck, which is about this thick, by the way, so you can see, when you empty that, the game's over. So let's just say I bought this. Now let's talk about deploying. To deploy, your ship has to be the newest ship in an area. Now if it's not, you can't deploy there. But there are a little bit of tricky rules, like for instance, this one's 1880, this one's 1885, this one's 1882. Technically this would have to have gone here when I put these out there for my little example earlier. So it does it in that order. The newest are first. So forget this side for a minute. This is what it would look like. Now my ship in my hand is 1882. Well, it can't go up here in the top. It can do this though. It can slide that down because it's in between the 2 years and deploy there. So let's talk deploying here, and let's talk what happens when you score a ship. So when you deploy, this is 1887, so it'd be the newest ship. It would push off this bottom ship, the green's bottom ship here of the Columbia. So it would get pushed off the board. Well, now you score, you go into ship scoring. Well, this ship is worth, it's a white flag. So you look at your player board, how many white flag tokens do I have? Well, I have 3, 1, 2, 3, which puts it in the 4 range. So this ship is a base price of 4. It's a base victory point of 4, plus however many ships are over here in the dock with that flag color. So this is a white flag. This is a white flag. This ship is now worth 5 points when it scores. This ship goes over to the dock when it's done. Now, if I were to score another white ship, it would be worth 4 plus 2. It would be worth 6 victory points, and so on. The higher you get on this track with the different color ships, the more victory points they're worth. This would deploy like normal. One other thing of note, had that been a blue ship down at the bottom, like a blue character ship, the blue character would have scored. So when this gets full and you still need to deploy ships to make money, because that's the main way to get income, obviously, you might be giving your opponent some victory points. So it's a little bit of push and pull in that sense of how badly do I need this money. Then the president is a variant we're not going to talk about. The invest is the other one. So you can purchase a house, one of the trading house things, and put it on one of the places for the cost listed. So in New York, it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 20, 30, 40, or 20, 30, 50, 20, 30, 50 in the other places. These give you a victory point per house that you have, per ship that you transport. So let's just say I did the region transport in New York. The blue character did. Well, then I transport 2 ships. So that's 20, 50, right? Because the Cuddy chart doesn't take any. That's $50 here, right? That's how much money I would get. But because I'm transporting 2 ships with 2 houses, this is now worth 2 victory points each. So this would be 2, 4. If it was just 1, this would be worth 1, 2. But because I have 2 houses here, it's worth 2, 4 points in addition to the $50 I get. So that's the important part of having these houses. Plus you get to take a green, a white, or a yellow, and by the way, yellows are supposed to be reds, green, white, or red, one of these tokens to add to your display over here. And you know that obviously helps with the scoring later. Or you can get a coal token and 2 coal. That's the other option there. How do you get blue ones? The blue ones are, you have to be the fastest ship up there. And that's how it plays. You keep doing that. You keep deploying ships. You keep doing these other options. Let's look at some of these other cards real quick just to give you an idea of the flavor. So this one's let 1 ship transport for every blue ribbon you own. If you had the fastest ships, obviously that would be a good thing. Let 1 ship per region transport, or we'll let 1 steamship per flag transport. Now there's one I'm specifically looking for. Here it is. Let 1 ship transport, earning an income of $10 per 100 passengers. Well, your passenger count is on the bottom right there. So this is 80 for the Columbia, so 800 for the Columbia, so you get $80 for that. So some of the ships later on have, you know, passenger count of like 2,600, so you get $260 for doing that. So it's obviously better to use this card than it would be to use the transport card. That is how you play the game of Transatlantic. You score at the end, you score all the ships, you score everything one last time for everything you have, and you come out to see who has the most victory points, and that's the game, period. Full stop. So as you can tell, Transatlantic is a mouthful based on that, just the explanation I gave. Some of you are going to write comments, be like, Bryan, this explanation was terrible. Why do you do better on the explanation? Because honestly, it's a tough game to explain all the concepts because you're going to have questions. What's the difference between transport and deploy? What is this and this and this? And it doesn't help the rule book is only this. It's only this little trifold thing, plus a setup guide. So that's a little bit tricky when it comes to, you know, answering your questions. There are no questions that come up of, well, what about this situation? Can I do this here? That's the one good thing, is it's pretty cut and dry when it comes to all that sort of stuff. But my biggest gripe, my biggest complaint is probably that art style, not the art style, but the components themselves. You know, they're just kind of okay. However, the gameplay, solid. I like the scoring. I like the way you count things. I like the way you slide new ships on. I like the way things go out to sea like that. I like the transporting. I like getting the new cards. I like the cycling through. I like this kind of Great Western Trail feel here of getting the tokens on here. And then the more of these that you have full at the end of the game, you get more victory points. So this row is worth 5, this row is worth 10, this row is worth 15, and this row is worth 20 if you have all of those full at the end of the game. So it's just another way to gain victory points by having all different types of tokens. Plus it helps you when you're scoring your ships because your ships are worth more points for more tokens you have. So I really like this game. I like the way it plays. It's historical, right? So if you go into that mindset and you go, okay, I'm thinking Twilight Struggle, you know, it's not about production quality there either. You think, man, I want to learn something, I want to see something. Now the art is pretty though. You see some beautiful ship pictures, and they're probably photorealistic, at least of the pictures of the ships themselves, but that to me is really cool. And if you know that going in, and you're not worried about, well, this doesn't look like Pie Town, it doesn't look like, you know, Twilight Imperium 4th edition. Of course not. That's not what it's for. And Matt Gerson doesn't make any kind of pretenses on that, you know. I actually like the paper money. I like the paper money a lot. I like the gameplay. I like the paper money. I like the divider. I like all that sort of stuff. So should you check out Transatlantic? If this is a game you think you'd enjoy just based on what I'm talking about, then yeah, you should. It's fun. The card play is great. It's a card game that doesn't feel like a card game. It actually feels like you're doing stuff on the board besides just playing cards, and that is something I love. So Transatlantic, really enjoy this. It's about salt water and transporting, all that sort of stuff, so it's fun. It brings me to a little bit of, you know, kind of reminiscing and all that sort of stuff about growing up in a saltwater town and all that sort of stuff. So beautiful pictures on the cards, great gameplay, solid, tight mechanics. Rules book could be a little bit tighter. The art could be a little bit better on the game boards themselves. Other than that, great game. Check it out, Transatlantic by Matt Gertz and Rio Grande Games. This is Bryan Drake with the latest retro. I forgot to say that again. This is It's been a good year in 2018 coming up here. It's been a good year in 2017 doing videos for the Dice Tower, and I look forward to even more. Make sure to follow us over at The Latest Retro on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.